Hello, welcome to the alternate point of view. My name is Tracy Lee, and I am super excited to have y'all here. Thank you so much for viewing, watching, all the things you're doing, liking, subscribing, sharing, everything. I really appreciate it, you guys. So, I want to say today we are going to talk about the Menendez brothers. Y'all, I've been trying to avoid talking about these guys because, well, this is just sad. It's pathetic. And I think it's awful that they are even in the spotlight and that these people today are giving them a voice. And I really hate that the young people today are giving them a voice and thinking this is cool because it's so not cool, y'all. What is so not cool about it is because these guys are just few years older than I am. And I remember this trial very vividly. I remember this happening very vividly. And I remember watching this on TV. I remember how widespread this was. This was very in line and in time with the O.J. Simpson trial. And I remember how awful it was. And I remember being a kid when this happened and this just being such a big deal. And also remembering, at the same time that these were a couple of rich guys that basically were angry with their parents and took their lives in a very, very brutal way. And I actually have, there's that 6 degrees of separation situation, right? I went to the same high school as Eric Menendez, not at the same time, but the same high school. So it's funny how people are like, oh, yeah, I had this or I knew this or what have you. So there's my 6 degree of separation. So there. But anyway, this situation is so awful, y'all. I don't know why people are rooting for these guys to get out of prison, especially when we see cases today and we look at situations today. Like, as you guys know, if you've watched my past videos, you know that I'm advocating for Michael Jackson Bolanos, who has been sentenced to 15 years in prison for lying, which is an astronomical amount of time for something that is so minute. And it wasn't even where he impeded an investigation, which is usually when you are charged with lying, you have actually impeded an investigation and stopped the process of them being able to find the actual perpetrator or actually be able to continue the process of their investigation. But that is not what Michael Jackson Bolanos even did. He wasn't even the perpetrator. So his life has been upended, and they haven't been able to solve the actual case of who actually took Samantha Wall's life. And nor do they care to, which is really, really sad. But Michael Jackson Bolanos is going to be serving this 15-year sentence because that is what the state of Michigan and the city of Detroit and everyone involved in that case has decided for him to do, no matter how much I yell and scream and shout from the rooftops about that case. But however, everybody is rooting and shouting from the rooftops for the Menendez brothers to be released after they took 12 gauge shotguns and literally lied in wait for their parents to sit down and relax and watch a movie and eat popcorn together in their mansion in Beverly Hills in the hill where actually I believe in the same area where the Kardashians lived, and shoot them multiple times until they were deceased. Now, this was a huge example of premeditated and planned and all of the things that you can say that people did and do to ensure that what they do will be done and they will get away with it. And this is what two 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, boys, young men did at this time to ensure that their parents would be gone and they would get their money. This wasn't a matter of what they presented on the stand and what people are trying to sympathize with now. Wow, have times changed, y'all. I realize that, we have this new sympathy or supposedly sympathy for people who have been assaulted and hurt in ways that we're supposed to be like this whole Me Too movement and this whole, like, we've got to be there and believe everybody that says this, that, and the other. But, that does not excuse what if that happened to them. That does not excuse what they did. They were not in any imminent danger at the time they did what they did. And what they did was they planned and they went across lines and pretended and faked their age and decided to be and pretended who they were to get their hands on said weapons and take them to their home. They went and bought movie tickets later because their plans fell through with their friend in order to make an alibi for themselves. And they almost got away with this murder. They almost got away with it. They pretended to have found their parents suddenly taken out. They pretended to tell everybody that their dad had connections with the mob. They did all of these things and made it look like that, they were these grieving kids, when also at the same time they were out spending all of their parents' money and buying Porsches and going on trips. And, Lyle literally wore his father's shoes to the funeral and gave this eulogy saying, "My dad always said I could never fill his shoes, and I am standing in them now." These kids had something against their parents. Now, if it was abuse, it was abuse. But they needed to have said that. And I will tell you this, in all of the tapes that were exploited or released, or whatever you want the word to be, in their trials, in the 2 trials, by the way, that they did, they never mentioned this whole abuse in these tapes. These tapes discussed other things, but the boys, as they called them throughout these entire trials, mentioned these things on the stand. They talked about this stuff. Their defense attorney had this strategy of, we're going to introduce this abuse. None of this stuff came up until this became a strategy for them to try and gain sympathy. And they're trying to now say that back in the 90s, this was not considered something that would happen to men or boys. And nobody understood that at the time. And now that we're in this day and age of 2025, we should take another look. And that the parents should have been held accountable. Okay, let's say that. Let's say that the parents did abuse them. Let's say that the father did these terrible things to Eric and Lyle. Let's say he did. And let's say that their mother turned a blind eye. Let's just go with that story. Let's say that he did this to Lyle his whole life, and now he was doing it to Eric, and Lyle was moved out of the house and he couldn't take it, and Eric was finally going to get to move out of the house, but now he wasn't, and all these bad things were happening. And let's say that Kitty was just like, I want to keep living this rich life and I'm not going to say a thing. Let's just go with that story. Does that mean that we don't have a justice system? Does that mean now that in 2025 we should say that Kitty and Joe deserved this horrible death this way, that they shouldn't have turned them in and had the criminal justice system do this? So we should just throw out this entire justice system now, and now we are the justice system. The public is the justice system, as the public has now become through this social media frenzy. That's what we're doing now. We're doing it through social media. So now Eric and Lyle should get out of prison. They've served just over 30 years, so now they should get out of prison after they plot and planned to kill their parents the way they did in this horrific, I'm talking about, like, if you don't know what a shotgun blast does to the body, it wasn't one shotgun blast. It was multiple shotgun blasts. They took the time to leave the room, leave the house, and go reload and do it again. So this wasn't So you're saying that that's okay? So all of these people on TikTok and social media are going, "Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. They should get another chance." So the Innocence Project has jumped in on this case. This is the hill they want to die on. When you have people in prison for 15 years for lying, this is the hill they want to go. This is what you want to do. This is what the case you want to take on, because they are big names. This is the case you want to put on social media and have all these little whatever they're called, Gen Zers, Gen Alpha. I don't know what the hell they're called. But you're going to put this out there, and you're not only going to give them the sensationalized story that's been put on Netflix and all these other channels and shows and TV dramas, and make people believe that these kids, these guys, these men, these grown men were terribly abused and they had nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. Their entire lives were bought and paid for. I'm not saying that just because you have money that your life is easy. I'm just saying that Lyle didn't live at home. Eric was going away to school. So you're telling me that these grown men had nowhere to go. There was no solution. None. No solution at all. These kids were menaces to their area. They were stealing. They were thieves. They were breaking and entering, stealing expensive jewelry and TVs and DVDs or VCRs or whatever was there at the time. And their father covered that up. He used his money and influence to cover it up. So you're telling me that these guys had no other option but to kill their parents with shotguns over what? These boys were money hungry, and they wanted to get out from under the thumb of their parents who wanted them to do right and make a better name for themselves, because their parents had worked hard to get a name for themselves. Their father was a big name, and that's what his father wanted to continue, was their big name. And was he strict? Was he probably an a-hole? Yes. Was he a lot of names you could call him? Probably. Do I know them? No. Did he abuse them? I don't know. I don't know what's true and what's not. What I do know is true is that those boys got 2 shotguns and they went into their house and they shot their parents to death. And they planned it and they premeditated it and they lied and they took their parents' money and they bought a bunch of expensive crap and they laughed and had fun until they got caught. And now they're laughing and smiling at every single person who's supporting them, and they're going to get another hearing to get out of prison. While there are a lot of people out there who shouldn't be in prison that are in prison. And you don't see the Innocence Project fighting for them. Nope. You don't see all these social media people out there making videos for them. Nope. But you see a lot of social media people out there raising money for them, the Menendez brothers, and for people like Carmelo Anthony, who stabbed a kid in the heart, and defending him and raising money for him. What is wrong with this society today? And yes, we do have a court system. So Carmelo Anthony has every right to go to court and be found innocent until proven guilty. He has the right to go through the justice system, and social media should not predict that. But the Menendez brothers have already been found guilty, and they did it. There's proof of it. They confessed to it, but now they're trying to pull the whole victim card. No, thank you. You literally blew your parents away multiple times, went out, reloaded, and did it again. And now you're asking for sympathy because today's society is all woe is me. Wah, wah, wah. You hurt my feelings. Get out of town. Are you serious right now? That's what's happening right now. The Menendez brothers right now are getting another resentencing, and they're saying that the judge is sympathetic to the Menendez brothers. I'm sorry, what? How is the judge sympathetic? The judge shouldn't be sympathetic to anything. He should be following the law. If they were sentenced to life in prison for taking their parents' lives, then that's what they should get. Life in prison. That's what they're in there for. They're lucky they didn't get the death penalty. So I'm just very shocked that people are so excited about this. That they're literally supporting and laughing and dancing in the street, and Mark Gallegos especially is he's the, you know, he was on the whole OJ thing, so of course he's super excited about it. But we're gonna watch the video, because that's what we do, is we're gonna watch the video to show you that Eric and Lyle are getting
now in the Menendez brothers case. A hearing is happening in Los Angeles to determine if the brothers will be resentenced next week. That could ultimately lead to their freedom after more than 30 years behind bars for murdering their parents. CBS 8's Kelly Hessedal joins me here in studio. Kelly, Lyle and Eric Menendez have yet to appear in person for these hearings. Did they today?
They did not. They appeared virtually from Donovan State Prison. Now, they're dressed in their blue prison clothes. They're wearing glasses. We're told they appeared pretty uncomfortable, as LA prosecutors have basically reminded the judge the graphic nature of the killings. So this hearing has been going on all day long. Cameras are not allowed in the courtroom, but we do have some new courtroom sketches. Now, because there's so much interest in this case, they actually held a lottery for seats in the courtroom. Family members of the Menendez brothers are there. We do have some video of one of the cousins arriving at the courthouse this morning. Eric's wife and his stepdaughter, they're there as well. Nathan Hochman, the new DA, his team is arguing to the court that the Menendez brothers have not taken full responsibility for killing their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, and therefore he says they should not be eligible for resentencing next week. He says claims that they acted in self-defense, that they were abused, he says those are lies. Now, there have been some tense moments. We're hearing that attorneys for the brothers have accused prosecutors of trying to relitigate this case. And there have been moments that the judge has had to calm everyone down. Now, it's possible the hearing may not end today, that it potentially could go into next week. We should find out, Anna, within the next couple of hours.
A lot of emotions in this, of course. And Kelly, the DA is saying he doesn't believe the brothers. What do the family members of Jose and Kitty believe? They knew the parents.
Well, the one relative who opposed their release, Kitty's brother, died last month. The rest of the family wants the brothers to be set free. In fact, their aunt, Jose's sister, just spoke out for the first time in decades. She's battling colon cancer. She is 85 years old, and she fears she won't live to see them released from prison.
So what happens if the judge sides with the LA district attorney and says, no, the brothers cannot be resentenced next week?
Well, those hearings would be canceled. However, the brothers still have a potential path to freedom. Governor Newsom has asked the state parole board to determine if they're a safety risk to the public, and if the board determines.
So they did get granted their shot at resentencing, which is absolutely insane. And I mean, it's just crazy.
Goodall. She's a cousin of Lyle and Eric's, who has been fighting for their freedom for years now. Boy, this is really nice of you to be on the show, because I know that you've had a hell of a day, a very long day in court. I don't even know how you made it to the live shot, but I really appreciate it. Give me your reaction to the decision from the judge today.
Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. I'm really, really, really glad about today's decision. And first of all, I just want to make clear, I was not in court today. I did not go in hopes that we would be there next week, and so my superstition held out. So I'm very, very thankful of that. And you know, honestly, my family owes so much right now to Mark Garagos, Alex Kazarian, Cliff Gardner, and Mike Romano, because they have just fought so hard and so feverishly for for Eric and Lyle. And honestly, just something that my grandmother Joan has been fighting for so long. And that just has been, just today's decision is just remarkable. And I can't even tell you or put into words the elation my family has felt today. Although we want to celebrate, we're not celebrating yet because this is not the end of the road.
Well, it's baby steps for sure, but this seems like a big baby step. And you don't have to put into words, Tamara, because
This is so disgusting. I just can't even, because like I said, I look at people like Michael who doesn't have the resources, and the people like Mark Gallegos to come to his rescue. They don't have, like, it just is infuriating. And people like the Innocence Project to jump in, they're supposed to help people who are innocent, not help people who actually took lives. So I'm pretty miffed by this. So you guys let me know what you think in the comments. How do you feel about the Menendez brothers being released? Everyone's been putting their 2 cents in, and this is the alternate point of view. So let me know what your point of view is. You see where I stand on it. I didn't even want to cover the Menendez brothers, but obviously I have a point of view about it. So I decided to talk about it. So let me know. I can't wait to hear what you guys think. And thank you again for watching. Don't forget to become a member. See you later.